All in.
He's gone for it.
All in.
Oh, and that is just going to dig his hole.
The player to be evicted this time is Emad. Let's take a look at who's losing and who's making money with your host, Jessie May.
Winning big right now, Emad Derwish, 12,000 euros ahead, as is Sergio Aido. Faraz Jaka, 11,800 plus, and Scott Baumstein, 10K plus. Adria Balaguer from Spain, 7K ahead, and Niklas Astedt, 4,000 winners so far. On the losing side, Alec Torelli, 21,000 down. Toby Lewis lost 20,000 and ran. Max Pescatori donated 12K. Raul Mestre, 8,000 behind. And Tony G currently losing 5,500. New player sitting down, but you've seen him before. It's the Finn Juha Helppi buying in for 10,000 euros. Juha Helppi was present and made money the very first big game. He's still here and still firing.
Automatic almost level of respect there, just showing if you've been here for the first big game and you're back for the seventh, it's automatically at the very least, it's not coming in with a disadvantage. It's a level of comfort.
I mean, he is kind of an iconic figure as far as European poker goes. For those who don't know, one of the early Europeans to win a WPT title. I think that was season 1.
I know, it feels like. I remember watching on TV, seeing him and dreaming about winning a World Poker Tour. So, I mean, that was
a long time ago.
I must have been 18, 8 years ago or something, right?
Oh, longer ago. No,
10 years ago.
No, yeah, at least 10.
Because must have been when I first started watching, because I remember seeing him right in the beginning.
It was the first one in Aruba. It was a very...
you know, that is right.
Yeah. By the way, Helppi did stick in the straddle for 100. Maybe he feared the wrath of the G. Now, Helppi could actually lose a few chips here, right? I mean, you would never expect a guy to check maybe a 10, I guess you might expect him to check.
Well, Helppi doesn't know about how Concepcion played the Queen's hand, so he probably doesn't know that that he's likely to be possibly to check with a big hand here. But you know, the thing you got to think is when it gets checked around twice to you, if you're the original raiser and you have nothing, you're probably a little more likely to bet the flop with something like ace-queen or ace-jack. So even though we did check, it kind of looks like he has what he has, a hand that was pot controlling the flop. Now he's a little more comfortable, a little more confident to bet again on the turn. Maybe with a weak king, king-jack or two jacks or a 10.
Don't do it,
The question
Scott.
is Scott going to do anything about it? Knowing that his opponent probably has a hand like he has, Scott's probably, give him credit here, he's probably thinking, can I get him to fold if I check raise and bet the river?
Oh, gosh. You like it, then? You kind of like the thought process.
Well, when he's thinking and he's about to unload the clip, I mean, that's got to be something that's going on in his mind, and give him credit.
Baumstein has made some radical plays in this cash game so far. A couple of them have worked. Is this one going to go up in smoke?
The good thing here, too, about Baumstein is he knows that with Concepcion's stack size, you know, if he calls this turn, he's risking 2450, but it's kind of that spot where he almost feels, Concepcion almost has to feel like he's calling all his money here. He calls the turn, the pot's 7,000, and now suddenly, you know, he has a little over a pot-sized bet left on the river, so it's really a tough decision here. I mean, calling 1,500 is so much more than calling 1,500, isn't it?
It is. I just feel like Concepcion has twice now put himself in weird spots by being a little too tight. Guys sense it, and they're just like, they're just all over you. They're like tigers, you know?
Well, the thing about it is, if you're going to give him that rope, you got to do something about it, and let's see if he does. He did call here.
You need to hold on.
And you need to hold on, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be really passive like that, it's fine, but you got to let him let him find a way to bluff you. And this is obviously a great card for Concepcion because now he doesn't have a tough decision at all. But it's also a good card because Baumstein, you got to feel like if he was bluffing the turn, he might continue again with it on the river.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, how many hands will, in Baumstein's mind, were helped by that card as far as Concepcion? Everything
Ace 10 goes away, yeah, but everything else, yeah, you're right. I mean, 2 jacks calls, 2 queens now has a set even. Jack 10 suited. You know, those hands are, they're going to call again. You know that he's connected with that board in some way, and if he is...
All in. All in. Fold.
I tell you, Concepcion must eat a lot of prunes because he certainly needs the stones to bet, and he found the bet there.
Well, Concepcion had a straight there.
Yeah, the stone nuts to bet.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
I mean, he's had trouble getting chips in the pot.
Right.
I think this game is going to be a little tough for him. But we'll see. I mean, that's why they call it poker.
No, the really interesting thing about the hand, I don't want to root against Concepcion, but I almost wanted to root for putting him in a tougher spot and not make the river a queen, make it an ace, and see, okay, would he have bluffed and would he have made a hero call there, and that would have really been the test.
He's just flatted here, Scott. In position with the 7 deuce. They raise.
How about Jaka flatting here with ace queen in the big blind?
Right, in the straddle. So the raises come from Adria.
Check.
Oh, and this might be interesting because Baumstein might make a play here with a 7 deuce, and he's going to have a lot of trouble here. Because Juha's flopped a huge hand, and he might try, especially if he's sensing, if everyone else checks to him, you know, Adria might check here. Nope. So we're looking for fireworks here because you can't expect Baumstein to go away on the flop. At least he's probably going to float, and then you got Helppi behind here who actually flopped it. Only one that has a hand.
I mean, really? Would you be floating here with Scott Baumstein's hand? At what level do you say, I got to go away?
Well, you got to be a little nervous. One of the really tighter players at the game has been pretty credible all night. Bet into 4 people, bet into 3 people. But you know, Baumstein might represent a 6 here, raising the flop or something. He just called, which.
Now, if you're Helppi, are you ecstatic or slightly worried?
A little of both. Right? I mean,
I think
that's
so.
part of the brilliance of deep stack poker is you're ecstatic in a way, but then you're a little worried about it too.
Raise.
And so this is actually a raise to define everybody's hand, right? He doesn't want to.
Well, he doesn't want to give a flush draw. He doesn't want to give the flush draw just a free card there, and it's a combination of that, possibly winning more money off a king, maybe getting a worse draw to go all in. But more than that too, what do the other players think about his hand when it goes bet call and he just calls? That kind of screams a 6, doesn't it?
I guess so.
So when you raise here, you kind of give yourself the chance to be representing 6 and bluffing. And
so you really like this.
I like the raise here.
And is that why Jaka's in the tank? Is there any reason for Jaka to be in the tank?
Well, now Jaka's thinking, you know, how often is Juha bluffing here? And the good thing about raising is you give the other people a chance to think you're bluffing. And you give them a chance to make a play at the pot, and that might be what Jaka does. Jaka's in the big blind. He could have a 6.
I can't imagine. I mean, he just called the 300 with the ace queen. Now he's going to try and blow 3 people off this? That's a bold poker play.
It is bold, and he's not, after the hand, he's going to be thinking, why did I let the 6-5 stay in there? Why didn't I just 3-bet and get him out of there and just win this pot right now?
Fold.
Well, usually in the squeeze play, when you get the first 2 guys to fold.
Well, he's got to love that it just went fold, but he imagined that, I'm sure, and now getting back to Juha was going to be the issue with it, and Juha is almost certainly not going to fold.
Right, but by the way,
Certainly not to Faraz.
Juha can only beat a
All in.
bluff at this stage, right? I mean, no, I mean,
I mean, the sixes that Faraz has are probably all better than Juha, but
right.
I mean, can you really do anything else? The pots.
You know, ghosts live under the bed.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing that Juha's now realizing is that he shoved. Now, I mean, my guess is Faraz was getting like over 12 to 1 or something on that
Something
call.
ridiculous. I mean, you almost want to call with ace high in case the guy has a draw, but I mean, you know you guy has a 6 there when he puts it in that quickly.
But Juha must be. I mean, he must know that he got completely airballed there.
Oh yeah, because that's the real reasoning in the hand is that he knows that if Faraz had the nut flush draw, he'd be forced to call it off there. I mean, almost certainly. Even if you shows him a 6, he has to call, right?
He might have to call with any pocket pair. He was getting a ridiculous price.
I mean, who knows? Yeah. But that's really a really good point you just made there. Is he knows now, and everybody else at the table knows that the speed of Faraz's fold was that it was a complete airball.
Right.
Right.
Kind of a gift, but I guess, like you said, the secret.
That's what the raising does.
That's what the raise
Yeah.
does.
So it's a gift. It seems like a gift, but if he calls there, he doesn't win any more money. And raising there netted him an extra 5,000. Give him credit.
And I guess that's how players have to change their game when they're playing against really, really good players.
Really aggressive good players.
Right.
And a lot of times it's all the decisions that you don't even give weight to that really make you the money.
I love the fact that Jaka was just prepared to sail for like $5,000 against 3 players there when he's put nothing in before the flop. It's just a completely different view of the game.
It is, but when you sense a good opportunity, even Baumstein there, he had the 2 4s and the board was screaming above him. He just sensed a little bit of weakness, and these players attack.
So this has been up to 300 somewhere. I guess it was Baumstein opening, I think, with the 8-9.
Bet 550.
And I know he's been aggressive and he's been firing away, but when the board comes Jack 9-8 and someone bets into 5 people, I mean, you got to think any level of aggression just, he has to have something, right? It feels like, however deep they are, that Baumstein's going to just call here because you got someone behind you, and if you raise, you almost over-represent your hand, You almost kind of are representing a set, but you don't even have that, so... Oh, and here's a killer card for Baumstein.
Straddle the gate. Where have you been anyway? Why? You should be here.
Yeah, I believe that Baumstein's at least 15,000 deep, and Sergio has to be deeper.
Yeah, he's winning him. He's winning a ton.
Yeah.
You need to be serving me.
Certainly, you're going to see another bet again here from Aido. A little bit of acting maybe on the turn here.
Check.
And he's checked back.
And who's to blame? Whose fault do you think it is?
Maybe he doesn't want to give away that he has a 10.
I'll tell you, there's nothing.
Trying to win value from 2 pair on the river or something like that.
Yeah.
Give him credit. Pretty good.
Well, like I always hate when the guys do the big Hollywood and they sigh and then they put out a bet.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hollywood is really only good if you're going to kind of check there. I mean, it kind of works then, doesn't it?
It's time to go. I mean, otherwise you're going
And Baumstein might even be betting for value now,
saying.
thinking that Aido has 1 pair so often here.
It's not going to happen anymore.
He's probably not going to get raised on the river either because, Baumstein could have a flush or a 10 as well. So Aido's probably just going to call pretty quick.
Start working. Focus.
13,
And
15.
he does.
There are 2 Americanos. It hasn't arrived. Make an
Scott's a little upset, but he's probably
And
thinking
poor
he could have
Scott's
lost
been in
more.
second place against Baumstein all day, I mean,
Yeah.
Baumstein's been in second place against Aido just all day here.
He really has.
He really has, and he must be getting so frustrated because
Where's the coffee?
every time he tries to make a play, he doesn't see what he has, and when he actually gets to the river, he just keeps seeing the hands, and he's like, he can't have it every time, can he?
Yeah, he's probably feeling, Scott, like he's getting a bit of the rough draw of the flops, turns, and rivers. I guess he is.
He
But that's
kind of
fun.
is, but that's
Yeah.
poker, and it's easy to think too that that Aido's getting the best of him, but it could just be the cards too. It's really hard to say if Aido has some some read on Baumstein or something like that. It could just be the way that the cards are playing out.
Call. Call.
No, solo con el queso, sin lechuga ni nada, es carne y queso.
Fold.
And Balaguer, who's now found ace-queen in the straddle position, which is effectively the big blind. Right. He could get busy if he wants. It has been opened by Aido. Oh, there's some big hands out, too. And Concepcion, who has seemed to like to let others do the betting for him, is going to work out perfect in this case. If Balaguer raises, he'll have him nutted up, and all he'll have to do is call.
$14.50.
You can't blame Adria. You know, he'll feel like Aido's got a very wide range for opening. He's folded already, in fact.
Call. Fold.
It'll be very interesting to see how this proceeds post-flop. If Balaguer, or if they both miss, in fact, will Adria try to buy it? Or is he just going to knuckle down here? Well, this is just going to get the money in, is my guess. I mean, if he has some history with Concepcion, where there is an indication, he'll definitely have the idea that when Concepcion starts betting, he's very strong. That's what we've seen.
Bet.
He might bet here and then check the turn.
Call.
Well, there is over $6 grand in the pot right now.
Really? Wow.
My guess is Adria's a little bit concerned right now, as you would be, getting called and called again. He could easily have Concepcion nutted up here. Concepcion has like a queen jack or a 2 10s, perhaps.
Warren, you're my assistant. You should be here. I might need something. Look at these waiters.
I'm sure
They're not
he's
performing,
very
they're not delivering on
concerned.
time. Make some inquiries.
Check.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Concepcion check this back. We've seen him play quite conservative at this up to this point.
Check. Check.
Concepcion sort of taking an eternity about deciding whether to bet or not. And kind of feel like Adria is going to have to call here, the way the pot's been played. It's clearly, you can see his hand shaking a little bit there. He's clearly, there's a big spot for Concepcion.
4,500.
And that's a big bet. 4,000 and so. Balaguer does have a very tough decision. I mean, you wouldn't. This is probably a call against almost anyone, but in his mind, Concepcion is quite conservative, and if he can find the pass here, it's a class one. It is 4,000 euros, it's a lot of money. And essentially, Concepcion is never, ever betting like 2 10s or 2 jacks here. So it has to be air or the hand. And curiosity has killed the Spaniard. The gato. The gato.
45.
We're back for more from Season 7 of the Party Poker Big Game here in Barcelona in just a moment. Welcome back to a busy casino Barcelona, where the Party Poker Big Game is playing out alongside Day 3 of the World Poker Tour.
Here's the current profit and loss on the players at the table now. Concepcion off to a great start. 11K ahead already. Juha Helppi wins wherever he goes. Faraz Jaka still ahead 6,000. Niklas, Astedt, Scott Baumstein, and Adria Balaguer all ahead a little bit, but Tony G has got some work to do. He's down 5K. Let me introduce now, thrilled to be joined by someone who most people in the Know Poker have heard a lot about and never actually heard, Warren Lush. Hi, Warren.
I'm in from the rail, as they say.
You're infamous, and mostly according, in respect to this man, Tony G, who has probably yelled at you more than he's yelled at any person in poker.
I think he yelled at me more than Phil Hellmuth, I think, or even Ralph Perry, maybe. He's definitely fired up today, though. He's really been shouting and everything.
One of my favorite moments, it was the first ever 24-hour cash game, and Juha he had the hump against Phil Hellmuth, and he'd had the hump against Phil Hellmuth for like 6 years.
Yes.
And that was his chance to get him back, beat Phil in the cash game and laugh at him. So I don't think Toby Lewis should despair. He's going to have his chance to get Tony G back.
Oh, definitely. Toby's got, he's got a long time to do this, and he's been in great form. He made the final table of the LA Poker Classic. He's on a great run at the moment, Toby.
He is. He's playing well, and to be honest, I mean, except for the fact that he ended up losing those big pots, I loved his verbal against Tony G. I thought he stood up for himself. He fired it right back. He did everything right against Tony, and then managed to unfortunately do his money in the poker.
Now, Tony kept saying something about cat and mouse or something.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what. The mouse trap.
Oh, so by the way, Helppi is walking the dog with Faraz Jaka here. He's hitting all the hands right now, Juha.
Yeah.
He's got 3 queens.
Oh, well, he was thinking with ace queen, top pair and flusher. It was like,
It's not very bad.
yeah. No, but I think,
And that's a really interesting card. Astedt, who's in the middle here, has now got the flush draw along with the up and down.
You have to 3-bet it pre-flop. It's too
And I'll tell you what the big problem is that if Juha checks here, Warren, like Jaka's just going to check behind and the pot's not going to get big.
No.
See, but when it's going your way, it's always going your way. He's just gonna get Astedt just betting into him.
it's the same. You can win in the showdown with 2-7.
What do you know about
It's the
this
same.
Nicholas Astedt? First of all, what country does he come from?
Finland.
Oh, he's definitely Finnish.
Yeah, so he's one of, he's a friend of Juha. But I know very little about him, actually. He's someone we picked up off the floor. Not literally, but on the WPT here.
It's funny, I was saying exactly that. I said he looks like a guy who was walking by the big game, saw how good the action was, and then just put together about 6 different Scandinavians' money and got himself in.
That's exactly what happened. Yes.
We've had some, over the history of the big game, haven't we had some great historic passerbys?
But I was quite excited to see Faraz here as well, actually. He's someone that everyone's would like to see more on TV, so it's good to see him here as well. And one day he may have his own home.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, for me, he was the guy I was most excited when I saw the potential lineup. Everybody just sort of knows because of the way he looks, he writes, he acts, that he's a complete nutcase and has to be a lot of fun on
Oh, he's
TV.
a total nutcase.
Yeah.
I've seen him. I've had many experiences with him in Cannes, and I heard he enjoyed the party on Friday night as well.
I'll bet he did.
Yes.
We can talk about Astedt here. Oh, well, this is over. He decided to give up against Juha on the river, and that was probably the best decision. I wonder if Juha is one of his poker heroes, and he probably has never beat him in a pot ever.
Everything. Everything, Phil. I'm going to take everything. I do it every single time I see him.
See him there.
Every single time I see him, I say it to him. He must get bored of it.
It's funny. I think I do too. Juha's a really funny guy, and I say that because he actually has an incredible sense of humor. But there's a lot of Finns like that, and they just seem so serious all the time.
Yeah.
You have to really understand their humor.
Oh, definitely. And he's a funny guy, Juha. He's got a good sense of humor. But yeah, that time is a classic because you didn't know where that was coming from at all. Everything.
You can hear a lot going on. I mean, this casino is busy. It is now, I think, day 3 of the main event for the WPT Barcelona. And, I mean, there's just a lot of people in town.
Yeah, we're about 20 players left now, I think. But there's, you know, Benjamin Pollock still in there, I saw. He's got a good stack. But I don't know. We're going to see what happens there. I heard that lots of people had too much fun at the party the first night, though. So there was less of a turnout on 1A than what they thought.
That's amazing, isn't it? The party was too good. But that's Barcelona for you.
It is, yeah. It's a fantastic round here. And there's a massive buzz here. Tony's buzzing at the moment because there's a huge basketball match here tomorrow night. Like, huge.
Lithuania's playing?
There's a Lithuanian Legends.
Tony very involved in the sporting scene in Lithuania. So you read his mood quite well. I mean, it's actually, he was quite harmless against Toby Lewis if Toby had picked up on that, right? Right now, would you just yell back at him type of thing?
I think I would have done. I think I'd have yelled back. I didn't see absolutely everything, to be honest. I was away, you know, which I got punished for and said, why aren't you here?
Yeah.
You know, like, but yeah, no, I think he's that way. I think Tony's in a needy frame of mind at the moment. It's like, I get text messages going, where are you? He's like, where's the monster? No, but, you know, he gives it all that, but he can be different. He's really a big pussy cat.
He really is. I think Toby probably felt there was a line crossed when Tony called him a cheat.
Yes, I think that was the problem.
You know, it's amazing how often that word's used in poker. I'm really not sure it ever should be.
800.
And the two Finns locked up in another pot here. I mean, you know, as far as European poker goes, even though I guess everyone considers the Finnish part of the Scandinavian crowd, to me they're always out there on their own, the Finns. They're you know, you think about the Finnish, the Godfathers, the Hellraiser, Jani Sointula, and Patrick Antonius. They're all such individuals.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And the also thing about the Finnish players, I think, is they seem to come in and out of the scene.
Yeah.
You know, like, so they never go away, but they always come back.
Right.
Yeah, so well, with Juha, you might not see him for 12 months or something, and you may not even hear of him at a tournament.
Right.
And then he just appears again.
And there's other thing about the Finns. Whenever you see them at any poker room in the world, they have money. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I have never in my life seen a Finnish guy standing on the rail asking to borrow money.
I did earlier on. It was Astedt.
But you know what I mean? Like, the Finns, for some reason, it's like there's a law. They're not allowed to leave the country unless they have a bag full of money or something.
Yes,
They're just like, you know what I mean, though? They're just... They're very vibrant.
I don't know how you say.
world.
You know, there are stereotypes about Scandinavian players, etc. But yeah, no, mainly the Swedes, crazy Danes.
Astedt's doing well now.
Yes, going back to Finland with a very large bag.
Scott Baumstein calls time on the big game, leaving with a profit of over 5,000. So an empty seat beckons for another hopeful waiting in the wings here in Barcelona. Welcome back. Nighttime descends on the beautiful city of Barcelona, but the vampires are sitting down at the poker table in the big game. We're just over halfway through.
100. Call. Raise 300.
Well, here we go.
I always love to see the aces.
Call 300.
And Jaka's got the ace crackers if he can find a 4.
Jaka cracker.
I like Faraz. I think he's just, you know, he's obviously not a cash game player. He likes tournaments, but he's made for the big game.
He's made for the big game, totally made for the big game. I always remember the picture you saw of him where he didn't have a home or something. There was something on Twitter.
Yeah, well, you know, we were talking before. He's just come back from Thailand. He's 10 days in the Buddhist monastery, and yeah, he's just living out of a suitcase. All right now.
Him, Jungle Man, Mad Marvin, they're all the same. Dominic Nietzsche.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they are the guys that really had to adopt the
550.
old school traveling poker player, and that's what makes them the money. But
so it's these two again.
Call
yeah,
550.
and Niklas is in a bit of trouble here. Now, this is the key street now.
Check.
If he can actually fold this on the turn, he has to tell himself that Concepcion has not really bet without it, ever.
The perception of Concepcion is tight.
Yeah.
You're made for this. It is amazing how many sort of stars get made on the big game. I mean, you think of Bodo.
Oh, Bodo, yeah,
You know-
with Barney Boatman and Roland. 7 deuce. We were talking about the 7 deuce game earlier on, actually.
It's
So
great for this game.
great for
Really,
this game.
it brings some fantastic dynamics.
Maybe I need to get back out there and fire Tony up and get it going.
Now, this is, I think for 90% of the people, 90% of the situation, this is an easy call.
Yeah.
But for Astedt, I kind of feel like that he can get away from it against Concepcion, and so can everybody, because he's been so tight so far. We'll see. I mean, if Concepcion gets full bet here on the river and called, it's going to be, he's going to get a lot of money.
Check. Check. Go. 9 aces.
Would you pay a value bet?
You never know. Maybe, maybe not.
I will never know.
I wasn't snap folding.
Yeah.
Nice hand.
And you can see what Astedt, he's kind of saying, yeah, I should have known that.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Concepcion gave him the free card on the river.
Fold.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you. Raise 300.
No, that's it. That's okay.
Call.
Call 300. Fold. Fold. Fold.
He said sometimes he's got 7, 8 of clubs, something like
Yeah, it's like he has some slow plays there, and it's like.
So, Warren, tell us.
I never
More Tony
have,
G
like-
stories.
I mean, that's all I want to hear. You know, I see you quite a lot, and really, Tony G is so much of what we talk about because he's so huge. I mean, and you know, a lot of people wonder. I mean, everybody wonders, what does Tony G do when he's not on TV playing poker? Because he seems like such a massively difficult man.
He's like Lithuanian Dragon's Den guy. There's people that come into Tony Resort and pitch their business ideas to him, and within 2 seconds he's either dismissed it or he thinks it's the greatest thing ever. Yeah.
That's a perfect explanation. He is. I mean, like he has like maybe 100 different business interests going, doesn't he? There is
absolutely.
nothing he is not.
But you've
involved
also
in.
got to remember he is a pioneer in online gaming. Poker News, which he owns, is one of the first companies. He's been there since the real start. He's one of the first people, and he's always asked to go on panels and things like that, but he's not really corporately suitable most of the time. Or he says yes and then pulls out at the last minute. That's Tony G.
By the way, if you wanted to see Tony G kind of get a little upset, Jaka may go for 3 barrels here, and Tony may pay him off, and that could have be the beginning of something. Wow, he's actually checked for us.
Would have been tough for me. Might raise.
I mean, Tony will have to think he's got the best hand right here. He might want to bet to protect it.
Bet 1200.
And there's absolutely nothing more frustrating in poker than betting when you think you have the winner, and then some guy dwelling, and then calling you with better. I mean, this is probably going to skyrocket Tony. But why do you think he hasn't gone after Faraz yet with the verbal?
I don't know. I think he respects Faraz as a player. He definitely knows. When I said Faraz was in, he was like, oh, interesting. Because Tony pretends he doesn't know a lot of players a lot of the time when he actually really does. Yes.
He always knows a little more than he lets on. And there is, you know, from being and watching with Tony, that there's the Tony when he doesn't really care about a tournament or a game or anything like that, and then there's a Tony when he kind of buckles down to play poker.
And I think he's definitely in that sort of mood tonight.
I think so too.
He's in it for the long haul.
And he's here to win.
Yes, definitely.
3.5.
3.5.
And this is an amazing bet because Tony doesn't know that he thinks he's betting for value here.
Yeah.
And if Faraz reads that, he might actually just find a fold here, even though he's got the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because it really doesn't look like a spot where Tony would be bluffing. We were talking about it before, Torelli. Tony's not a big man for bluffs on the river.
No, he's definitely not.
You know, he likes to bet with the best of it. And actually, like, if Jaka thinks about it, what the heck does he beat right now? I think that's the incredible thing about, I guess, a guy like Faraz Jaka is how often they're able to make the correct decisions, even though it all seems very 50-50-ish.
Look at this, is a different Tony here. You can't hear a peep.
Right. Yeah, he's not even talking. And once he shows the queen, Tony knows. Tony knows he bluffed him. Tony knows. Tony, you gotta show him the hand.
Come on, Tony,
Show him the whole hand.
Yeah, come on.
We'll keep it a mystery, right?
I will see.
And oh, by the way, look who's decided to take a powder is Adria Balaguer. Now he gave it a heck of a run. He played for like 7 hours and decided to call it a night.
So this was your first time playing in the big game, finished with a small profit. Talk to me about how it went for you.
It was very nice. I had a lot of interesting hands, I think. A lot of thinking. I have a lot of fun playing with all these big names on poker scene. Overall, I think it went okay.
I guess the good news here, Warren, is the fact that most of the money has stayed on the table.
That is the best news, yeah.
You
The money's still on the table, yes.
And this is a relationship that really has to blossom and bloom, isn't it? It really needs to. This Faraz Jaka, Tony G.
Like if that would have helped. I just didn't know what to do.
Call to 15. Fold.
And someone who's just left the table is going to be joining us in here. It's going to be good to get his perspective on things. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Jesse. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and Scott, I mean, you're gonna get settled in here. In just a few short hours, you managed to play about 8,000 significant pots, all of which we could talk about. I mean, was really and we'll talk. You're just gonna get comfortable here, but an incredible couple hours down there at the poker table.
Yeah, I have like a lot of mixed feelings about how it went on. I think I played overall pretty well. I got pretty lucky early on with Alec for a big pot, but I thought it was a really good spot for him to be four-betting with that with those queens there.
And there was some great stuff. I mean, I would say you alternated between brilliance and diabolical. I mean, which is great.
And then once all these Euro kids starting sitting down, nothing seemed to work. I feel like I made some. I haven't been getting updates, so I don't know if I was making good folds or not. And I feel like I started running into it. I feel like I shut down on a lot of rivers in good spots that I decided not to barrel when they always had it. I feel like I ran into a lot of big spots, and I feel like sometimes I lost the minimum. I could have stacked Jaka in that one big hand when he had the ace-king there. So that's obviously a big regret.
Yeah, well, just tell us a little bit about how you perceive it. We're seeing a pot here, but how you perceive the relationship between Tony G and the rest of the table.
Well, that's probably the biggest part of the dynamic here. Everyone here is kind of the action kind of revolves around Tony G. He's putting on double straddles. He's talking a big game. He plays very loose pre-flop, so you can kind of get in as much money as you want pre-flop versus Tony, and then he really tightens up and when he sees a flop.
Do you think some of these players are leaving the table because of Tony G? I think Raul Mestra, he definitely did. Toby, maybe.
Toby left because he lost all of his money, and I think he did lose a lot of that money because he was tilted because of the conversation he was having with Tony G. So love him or hate him, Tony definitely has the ability to get in somebody's head and really affect the game. And Raul was just kind of uncomfortable with the whole straddling situation. I think he just wanted the game to be a little smaller, and he also didn't want to free roll by not straddling, but he also didn't want to be the only one that
it's a familiar problem we've had in big game history, is
Right.
Tony G trying to up the straddles to too big and then everyone agreeing on the same table. So there's more for Astedt there. So
I do know the person sitting down right now. This is Ognjen Sekularac. I know him very well. We've actually been heads up for a title in a tournament before, so I've played with him a whole bunch of times.
Where was that then? Where were you heads up with him?
In the Master Classics of Poker in 2011 for the High Roller.
Okay.
You're in, you qualified.
Try 200.
I qualified.
I think Tony just said something to him about whether he's going to wear headphones on a TV table. That's another pet hate of Tony. So I've had to put up with him and Andrew Roble and everything with Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where the whole feud with Andrew Roble started, by Andrew not straddling, right?
Yeah, and Andrew not straddling, and then all the clock was being called, and yes, all sorts.
Play blind and just
But actually, there's a thing with Tony that people always ask me, but Roble actually does put him on tilt. Like if Roble's in this game, if I told him, oh yeah, Roble's coming, it tilts him. So, you know, people go, Tony's so acting.
Kryptonite?
Yeah.
No, you'll see.
Kryptonite is Andrew Roble.
On the first glance, do I have it or not?
I think so. It looks
14,
you're talking a lot
15.
about it. I want to see some action too.
1450, sir.
Need something from you. If
Yeah,
I
you
lose,
can.
You will like me for sure.
So Ognjen opened to 400,
See, I call with
Call.
very bad hand. 1450, right?
Yeah.
Concepcion re-raises to 1450, and now Ognjen is 1,000 to call. I think he's going to call here with
You
7
can
6
work with
suited.
the hand.
Hey, I don't even know
even
what
out
I
of
have.
position.
Let me double check.
That's the best. That's the best value you're getting ever.
Okay, now we can play.
Pretty good flop for Ognjen here. It's probably going to go check bet call.
Raise 2000.
Can't always be hoping to flop, straights and flushes with suited connectors like that. To flop second pair with 2 backdoor draws is really on the upper echelon of flops there. There's no chance Augie's going to be folding to this 2,000 euro bet here.
Your perception of Concepcion, was it a lot like the others, that he's quite snug?
Raise.
I mean, I didn't get to see much of his cards, but he was making a lot of re-raises. I didn't have that. Did he have it all the time?
Up till now, he's usually got it.
Oh, okay. Well, then, no, that wasn't my perception. I wasn't able to see every card, but he seemed to be very active. So either he was running, he was getting a lot of cards, or he was trying to make a lot of moves. And that was actually surprising me when I saw this guy whom I've never seen before, and being that aggressive. I was thinking there's probably a pretty high chance he just had a good run of cards.
He's obviously going to be done with a hand here, you think, or is there something more?
I would. Maybe he's putting him. It's a very draw-heavy board, so
4006.
Right. It's not actually. It's pretty an unorthodox thing for Sekularac to actually raise with second pair in this spot.
It
right?
is, but he doesn't believe Concepcion hits that board, and it puts him. He's trying to put him in a lot of weird spots later. This is exactly what I talked about when Augie sat down. He's going to be trying to do this. He's trying to play big pots. He's going to try to make his opponents uncomfortable. Augie's very comfortable playing this big. This isn't anything new to him.
You know him quite well.
Yeah, he plays big cash games. We did a final table for his last year together. He was at the final table WPT Vienna. As I just told Warren, I
just one question.
I have a long history with him, and he's a great player, and I know he plays really big.
Big hard calls.
Yeah. It's like more than 10, right? Inside.
10.
Just jams. He picks up a draw on the turn, and it's less than potside bet, and he's just decided to go with it here, which is at this point he obviously has to do that. And there's I don't see any way that Concepcion can call here.
This is a big bet. This is 10,000 euros
into a pot that has 12.
Right. this is actually sort of a feature of the big game, isn't it? That, you know, it doesn't look like a huge game, but then the pots swell, and all of a sudden, there's really big bets to consider.
He's winning some.
We'll be back for more as the big game continues here at Casino Barcelona after the break. Welcome back to the big game season 7 here at the Casino Barcelona. Let's get back to the table.
Look at this. This is good news for all the poker fans out there. This is the guy who wanted more than anything else to have another crack at this big game. He's the big loser right now, but like that could change. Alec Torelli.
How much is he stuck at this
21,000 pounds.
He's pretty good. Feel like we're pretty good.
And I'm sure he's going to buy in for a full 20 right now.
Yeah, and you know, knowing Alec, like, the last thing on his mind is that he's stuck 20,000. He's just as happy to get back in this game right now.
Absolutely.
What did you, because you guys had a couple of serious pots going on.
Never happened to me.
I actually feel really good about how I played overall versus Alec.
Oh yeah, you played some great pots.
I feel like he probably considers himself the class of the table, and he probably is in this deep of a cash game. And a lot of it had to do with his my perceived perception of him. I thought the big pot we got into, I thought it just happened to be a really good spot he was in to make a raise there, and I think my play gets through a lot of the time. It just didn't, but and it plays well enough versus the hand that I get called with. But outside of that, I kind of made a lot of stands, and
yeah, they turned out good. He's topped up here, Alec, for around 3K more from what he took off the table, so he'd have, I think, close to 20 as he can.
$700.
This is the most incredible action card in the deck. Jaka's picked up the flush draw along with the pair and the straight draw, and Aido's picked up the set.
Well, not only Jaka has a pair, a nut flush draw, and a nut straight draw versus bottom set. They can get it all in here.
Wow. And
there could be a series of raises and re-raises to get both of their stacks in right now.
Has Aido raised?
Yes. So Jaka at 1,700, Aido raised to 2,200.
And it's such an interesting raise, isn't it? Because he checked back the flop, Aido. So
and Jaka has blockers.
Right. So, and you're never assuming that he turned a set. So what kind of hand do you put him on here?
A lot of bluffs. He can even have hands like ace 10, ace queen. I mean, he could definitely have a hand like ace queen and checking back the flop for pot control, and then just trying to kind of dictate the action on the turn. Feel like his hand is best in the turn and get some value out of it. And
right. So if it is a pot control sort of check back, then Jaka should feel like he can get him off it here, or what?
It's definitely, Jaka's definitely confused right now because that doesn't add up in his head. I expect Jaka only has around 10,000 chips. I wouldn't be surprised if he just gets it in right here.
Right, even against the set, which is, or the straight, he's still very live, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, well, any club that isn't the jack of clubs or any queen. So with one to go, that's not. No, he decides to. That's a good just call there. Decides to appeal. He decides he wants to improve here before putting in any more money.
If it comes a low club, he's taking all of Aido's chips.
Probably. And that's Jaka played it perfectly, and I think he's just going to get away from it.
He is obviously a great reader of cards, Jaka. He's played so many pots.
There is one conceivable hand that he can put Aido on here, which is a weaker flush draw, in which case his king would be good. That's the only way he can really make a call here. If he had like Queen X of clubs,
like about 55
or 10 X of clubs,
approximately.
Oh no, Jaka's the 10 of clubs, so like Queen X of clubs and that's really the hand that Jaka would be able to beat here.
So we'll see how much Aido bets. There's only 5K in the pot. It feels like there could be more, doesn't it?
Yeah, I expect, based on the line Jaka took here, he's probably going to just fold this pretty easily.
They should, as long as you could.
I think they won't have it.
It's kind of the new sort of one of the new things in Hold'em. People using these pot size and over pot bets more often than they used to.
Well, what it does for you is, well, not in this situation because Aido's obviously stacking off. It makes your decisions easy on rivers when you get you're like potting rivers to a lot of the time to intending to fold to re-raises because you're making the bets so big that like it just sometimes it makes things easier for you.
Are you calling to a split?
I'm not sure if has Aido done himself well by opening his mouth there. Obviously trying to get the call now.
It's usually not doing yourself well when you start opening your mouth with a monster hand. I picked up on one pretty big tell on him earlier on. I mean, I might have been wrong. I didn't see his cards, but I folded because he did something very specific. And he did the same thing here, exactly what I picked on earlier. When I had an ace, I had like ace-6 one hand on a jack-queen 4-4 board, and I thought about calling his bet on the river.
Right.
And then the second I picked up my cards to fold, he
said something, and he has made the pass here. Faraz Jaka, it was the right one. How he got to that decision, we'll never know.
But I want to discuss this for a second because he just did it again.
Right.
When I had the ace high and I picked up my cards to fold, he immediately picked up his cards. That was like he was like free rolling. So he was trying to free roll me. He figured I was about to fold, so he just had to do something in order to try to induce a call. He did the exact same thing to Jaka here. Jaka picked up his cards like he was about to fold, and what did he do? He opened his mouth because he figured Jaka's about to fold here, so I might as well say something because I got nothing to lose.
Right. And guys as smart as you and Jaka, they're going to figure that out straight away. And they're right both times.
Got voted off. Does everyone know why I got not why I got voted off?
I wonder if he'd kept his mouth shut if Faraz would have called.
The viewers were watching him
Maybe
play.
he wouldn't have, but I think that definitely helped him fold in that spot.
And they feel
Flag
so
when he
bad
plays.
for him. They want to help him. They want to save him from losing.
Way to save is but you're stubborn and you come back. I'm a stubborn.
They try to.
Well, Niklas has opened this up and Helppi's
losing 21,000.
Maybe some of them will come here.
No.
They will fly and come here.
Now, Aido's had been doing a lot of 3-bets. That's a really unusual fold for him. Would you say King 10 suited there?
Losing 20,000. Stop.
You know, sometimes you just gotta let them go. Especially a lot of it has to do with game flow. You just got into a couple big pots, and you're in those kind of spots. You're sometimes more likely to pass on hands coming up that are marginal.
So that's the real reason. Never try to get your money back.
350. Fold.
Tony's now spouting philosophy.
This one.
Fold. Fold 350.
Can I get my cards?
It's okay. Check.
Flop that's kind of hit everyone. And
check.
Astedt has checked top pair here after raising pre-flop.
I think that's perfectly reasonable on a flop like this. I did the same thing with 8-9 with bottom 2 on the exact same flop.
That's true.
It puts you in a hard when you bet top pair there and your check raise. You when you bet ace jack there, you just kind of want to fold. Like you're beat there. There's a lot of 2-pair combinations. Straights are out there. Big draws. It just puts you in an awkward spot. That's just a pot control check, and it allows you just to kind of call turn.
6.
Jaka now has 3 9s.
And
but Jaka was calling the flop anyway, and because he had a second pair with the straight draw, a backdoor flush draw, so he's going to lose less now because he checked back the flop. I mean, it wouldn't have changed there. He's really just controlling the size of the pot here.
I mean, Astedt almost could have gotten away from this losing nothing. Now it's Helppi that bet it, and
right. If I were in a 4-way pot here, I'd be checking back 2 aces, 2 kings.
Right.
I mean,
do you like it?
It allows you to. There's a lot of safe cards in the turn to continue. There's a lot of bad cards where you can just junk.
What about Jaka just calling here instead of check raising?
It makes his hand face up when he. I mean, you got to.
Oh, sorry, he's on the button, so he actually.
Check.
Yeah. My fault. So he feels like he can get a bet in on the river or something like
right,
that.
I mean, he's in position, so he's going to allow them to bet again because he can make that raise in the river. If he's out of position, he might have check raised, but now he gets to act last. And now he's going to he's probably gonna pile it and try to make it like he missed some sort of draw. He's pretty unlikely to call the turn with the pair board with a draw, but he doesn't, you know. But you're still gonna put out near 3,000. 2,200.
Tough spot for Astedt to be in.
I assume Astedt is gonna call here.
He's so underrepresented his hand.
Yeah. Just based on how the hand went down, I expect to see a call here. The bet sizing is right. He checked back the flop, made the pot small as possible. It's even conceivable that Jaka's value betting like King Jack here.
Wow, and Astedt just folded like it was nothing. And now Juha's actually thinking of calling with much worse.
Well, Astedt did have Juha behind him, but nonetheless, that's a great fold with Ace Jack.
Where people come and train and
He didn't really lose $1 after raising pre-flop.
They learn models. With models.
And Juha's obviously got Faraz Jaka in a much different place. He's probably wondering to himself, if Faraz had anything, why wouldn't he have either bet the flop or raised the turn?
Yeah.
Fold.
It's all right.
But he's a super genius. So he just gets away from it.
Yeah, if you're going to start.
Do you think, Faraz really seems to be great at just taking these weird lines and sowing deception.
That is definitely his game. He really plays out there. In tournament poker, he plays a lot looser in terms of starting hands. He's playing much more conservatively in terms of starting hands, but he's a thinker on a higher level in terms of taking weird lines. And so even though he doesn't regularly play cash games, he's such a smart guy that, you know, he's just going to do well.
Fold.
Because it's warmer.
Fold.
It's warmer water.
Fold.
So it's a straddle, right?
Yeah.
Straddle?
What's the straddle? Raise 300.
It's like the straddle gate.
Fold.
I think I might be all right here.
Fold 300.
Here we go. Oh, almost.
So Tony's raised this button, and
from a different generation.
Ognjen has peeled off the flop. And he will now crush Tony G. Let's see. I mean, what do you feel like trying to trap Tony G is the best way to beat him?
I would even say inducing him is better than just like check calling. I'd rather, like, if I ever had my plan to play Tony G was, if I ever had him in a really good spot, which I didn't, we never got into any really big pots, was to like kind of lead small and have him just kind of pile versus checking to him. Because like he's the kind of guy that'll try to pick up on weakness and bet really big to like small bets and stuff just to try to kind of bully you around.
Now this is a great bluffing card for Tony, and Ognjen will know that.
Ognjen will know that. Ognjen will check call again here.
Check.
1,200.
1,200.
There's no way Augie is folding here. Zero.
I like your confidence. And this is just because
I will give you 5-1. Augie calls, and I'll even give you on a raise. I'll bet you he just calls here, doesn't raise, and doesn't fold.
You know, that sounds like such a good price that I'm not going to take it. You're just too smart. But that sounds like a good price. And I wonder if he's passed.
It was a hard one to lay down. You got the
I'm shocked.
And who's sitting out there saying they would have just absolutely piled the money in from you 5-1.
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked because exactly what you said. The ace, especially for a guy like Tony G, who Ognjen knows is a barreler, is such a good card for him to represent on the turn once he misses completely. It's like probably the only card in the deck that Tony is going to continue on the turn.
Small line, big line.
I also feel like maybe Ognjen hasn't watched Tony G enough, because I feel like if you've watched Tony a lot, you kind of know he does have a tendency to shut down on rivers, and Ognjen almost might have gotten, you know, a very, very true reaction from Tony on the river.
Absolutely. Not only does Tony shut down on rivers, he plays, for as wide as he plays pre-flops, he plays seemingly straightforward post-flop.
Re-raise. 850.
Now this is more like the Aido
Fold.
we saw. He likes to 3-bet.
Fold.
This is a good hand as well. Some players might fold this, but never Tony G. Would he? Do you,
No.
Could you?
I'd be pretty surprised if we fold that. Tony doesn't mind putting it. Yep,
Raise,
Richard chooses to raise it. I don't mind that play either. Because like when he just cold calls there, he kind of like feels like he plays his hand face up. It's a lot of like, you know, 8s through jacks and queens hands, ace queen, those kind of hands. But he's just disguising his hand a little bit here by re-raising. It's a hand he wanted to play, but he also didn't want to play it in a standard fashion.
And Aido's on the back foot. Even if this flop comes ace high, Aido might still be on the back foot.
I don't think he's going to fold a lot of ace high flops, but. I wonder if Tony can win this year with a single bet.
Ah. You don't mind a fold here, in a sense.
I think it's so marginal that like just the fact of like having an ace or a queen of clubs in my hand would change that. Like I'd probably like maybe continue if I had the club and not without it. It depends what his plan is for the hand. Like if he's gonna miss and call down, if he's just gonna miss and fold. Because they could even just check it down and Tony's just gonna win a showdown with 8s.
And is this a spot where Tony has to man up and bet to get some hands to fold, or should he just kind of see if he can get to a cheap showdown?
Aido has sets here a lot, you know, 10s and jacks, obviously flush draws, a lot of hands that Aido isn't going to be folding. You know, ace jack, pocket 10s, pocket jacks, maybe 10 jacks suited, any sort of combo draws like Broadway draws with club draws, like all sorts of hands he's not going to get Aido off. But it's a tricky spot because he's out of position, so he doesn't want to just check fold. And he also doesn't want to let Aido take it away if he does have one of those combo draws. So he could conceivably be check calling here and then deciding on the river based on how wet that river card is, like if and calling with a blank comes or.
And how? I mean, Aido's obviously got this card, and then he can also do something on the river. But is it in his mind that if Tony has ace king, he wants to try and win this pot anyway? I wonder. Maybe
he'd have to have a lot of heart, as Tony would say, to try to get him off exactly ace king. And at this point, it's gonna. Wow, nice bet, Tony G.
What did he bet 17 or 7?
1700.
Okay,
that's a really good bet.
It was a blocking bet in a sense.
Yeah, and he'll get a little value. If you know he puts him on a stone bluff there.
So that's the Tony G we know and love, and.
Tony called it exactly.
Wow.
Tony just said, "I think he had ace queen," and he's upset with himself.
He's actually quite a good poker player, Tony G, when he puts his mind to it.
He really is, and I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he plays post flop really, really well. I think he has a really good sense, and knows where he's at.
I mean, he's actually. He's ahead 6K right now. He's grounded out. He hasn't had any huge hands. He's put one big bluff in. I mean, he's really playing the game tonight.
Jaka's got a real hand on the button here, ace queen suited.
And Tony G has been 3-betting these kind of situations, the button open.
This I don't like 3-betting ace-6 offsuit from the small blind. Just playing out of position versus a good player with a hand that's really hard to play post-flop. He just won the last pot. I mean, this should be a fold here, but he does call. See, like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. His pre-flop play is horrendous, Tony G. It's horrendous.
Diabolical.
But he plays really well, you know, but at the same time, he knows where he's at post-flop.
Jaka's just loving this spot so far.
And Jaka knows that. Jaka and I had a long conversation yesterday specifically about Tony G and what to expect from him, and this is exactly what we talked about. Horrible pre-flop play, and he expects good post-flop play.
Interesting. So Jaka was doing his homework a little bit then. He didn't want to come in completely cold.
Oh yeah, we've
he peppered you for information.
Oh, not only that, we've been watching for the past couple of days. We've been watching last year's big game.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well,
not like a B category hand, like an A category hand.
Oh, and Ognjen just led this.
Try one card.
Which one do you need? Something. 5?
Obviously, Tony flops the 6 there. He's not gonna give up now.
Right. Well, Ognjen, be aware that that 3 could. I mean, that's pretty much in Tony's range as well, isn't it?
He could. I mean, he obviously, if he could have ace-6 offsuit, he could have a suited 3.
800.
This is bet kind of small, like a third pot.
Again, all Tony G is beating here is, you know, spade draws him 4-5 or some sort of gut shot draw with spades. Ognjen's never betting less than ace-6 for value. I think, yeah, he's gonna let it go. See, he's making good. Even though he he doesn't lose big pots post flop with hero call. You know, he doesn't seem to be wrong with those sort of things.
I think you're right.
You know, he calls small flop bets and then doesn't pay off large ones on turn and river.
The Party Poker Big Game continues here in Barcelona after the break. Welcome back to the Party Poker Big Game. We are well into the night in this 12-hour continuous cash game coming to you from the Casino Barcelona in the Mediterranean capital. Let's head back into the action.
Biggest winners so far, Sergio Aido, 12,800 ahead right now. Imad Derwish booted with a profit. Concepcion, Sekularac, and Juha Helppi grinding out a nice little win so far. Scott Baumstein quit with a 5,000 win. And Niklas, Astedt, and Tony G looking good at the table right now. Look on the minus side, however. Alec Torelli back down at the table and down where he left off, losing 24,000. Toby Lewis took a loss, as did Max Pescatori, and Raul Mestre also lost 8,000 euros. Our players are holding their breaths as our third elimination is coming. Previous players have voted against each other in a secret ballot, but this time round, it's exclusively down to the online viewers. They're voting for who they would like to keep in the game, and the player with the least amount of votes will be sent packing. That's coming up shortly, but let's get back to the action. It felt so unfair to see Alec Torelli booted off earlier, losing 21,000 euros, but maybe the audience was doing him a favor. Here he is back down, and it's going no better. He's lost 3,000 euros more already, and he doesn't really seem any closer to solving the big game.
It's just insane. And then
500.
And then the playoffs, like they're playing over 100 games.
It was interesting. Alec Torelli was saying when he was in the box that he actually thought in this particular game, limping in early position with a wide variety of hands was not a bad strategy, and he's limped here because a lot of people are uncomfortable playing with limpers and that sort of thing.
Right, and he actually did that to me in a 4-bet pot that I just knew exactly what he was doing there. Like I felt, and he's like, because he limped under the gun, I didn't feel like he was doing that with a big hand, and he was trying to limp raise it like repping a big hand, and I guess I went one more. He really wanted to continue. I had ace-jack in that hand. He really wanted to continue. I was going to jam actually if he 5-bet me. It was the plan.
Well, it was interesting because he had ace-jack too. It was.
I was going to jam though.
Yeah,
if he raised.
I think you guys both were on the same wavelength there, but you definitely had a little more heart than he did in that spot. Astedt's laid a bet in here, a big bet too. And Torelli's not quite done, is he?
Well, he's got the wheels are definitely turning right now. 2 overs and a backdoor flush draw.
I mean, there's a lot. Torelli can easily make this look like he has a medium pocket pair. You know, that's one of the hands, right? People would limp with, and
or really any. I mean, he could represent 4s, sure. Even like maybe like an 8-9 suited, something like that. And he calls. I mean, he hasn't really repped anything. I mean, obviously his sets are in his range, but also an 8 could be in his range here, like a suited 8. And there it is, yeah. And so now, this might be perceived as a good card to barrel for if you're Astedt, and now Torelli's plan is just changed completely. He's probably just going to check call down, and then if he gets a check back here, Torelli's probably going to
bomb the river.
I mean, it's funny because if you are, it was quite a big bet that Astedt made on the flop. So really, the one card you would almost never expect a guy to have when he calls you there is a king, right?
That's correct.
I mean, what could he have a king?
Unless he already has a set, in which case it's the same difference.
Right.
Like the king doesn't matter.
And so maybe Torelli has made what they call the wrong move at the right time, because he could get Astedt for 3 barrels right now.
Sharaz is, you know Sharaz?
Alec could have been raising if this card didn't come.
Sure.
He plays for basketball.
It's only 1850, but
We were playing soccer. We were talking about soccer.
Yeah.
No, I don't know him.
I think Alec is just gonna flat here, and he's gonna raise river depending on bet sizing.
He's only the best European player.
If Astedt bets big on the river, he's gonna Alec's just gonna call here, and if he bets probably if he bets less than half the pot, Alec might check raise here.
And what can Astedt get him off of? He doesn't.
He's given up at this point.
Probably a smart move by Astedt.
Yeah, yes, he can.
And Torelli will take that pot. I know it's not a huge pot, but it's one of the first pots tonight that Torelli has actually caught a card in his mind, and he probably feels like...
He feels good about it.
Yeah.
Little smirk. He wasn't going to get any more out of him, so obviously the turn of river play is as much as he was going to get.
So let's welcome in someone into the booth right now. We saw him standing on the rail before, Scott, and you know him quite well. He is a member of the WPT Champions Club. Matt Salzberg, welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks.
Not only is he a member of the WPT Champions Club, but he's currently tied for first place in Player of the Year.
We've been joking about that. You know, you've really decided to go for it, Matt, and well, it looks a lot different than the actuality going around the world trying to win every WPT, right? It's a grind, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, coming from California especially, it's pretty far, so there was a long flight to London and then to Venice and, you know, back to London, here to Barcelona, so it definitely takes its toll, and I'm not I'm not one of these young kids either. So.
Especially when you go deep everywhere, like you just never get knocked out of a tournament early, I mean.
Yeah, although here it wasn't too kind on day 2, but yeah. Venice was pretty good up until the 7-handed.
And where are you going tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'll be here hanging out with Scott Baumstein probably.
No, but the following day you're going to Florida.
Yeah, I'm going to Miami on Wednesday to play the WPT Hard Rock Seminole on Friday.
I'll be there as well, but you're really putting on the miles.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like this could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a WPT Player of the Year, and so I got nothing else to do, so...
Jaka's got the flush draw on the button here.
Check.
That's quite a good card for
It really
Faraz.
is, isn't it?
Turns top pair now to go along with his flush draw.
Tony with a stone cold float here.
Well, Tony does pick up a gut shot to the nuts.
Go.
I wonder if Tony's thinking about bluffing on any cards here. I don't know what he would. Hope not that one, for his sake.
Check.
Tony snap checked. Either he's like snap giving it up, or he's. I don't think he's gonna try to make a play. I mean, he hasn't done anything like that. See the river. I think he's just gonna check fold here based on how he's been continuing to play. Rivers.
Is he playing kind of passive?
Oh, on Rivers, he's just always right. It seems like he's just giving up, and when he's beat, and he doesn't barrel Rivers. Like he's never making he hasn't been making like a check raise bluff here.
Very few people do.
Well,
I tried one the other day in the tournament on day 1A. I tried check raise bluffing on a paired board on the river, and the guy had the pair.
He had 4 of a kind.
No, he had trips, but it was just like it was a flush on the turn, and then a paired board on the river, and I check raised, like my one check raised bluff.
One per year, you said.
Yeah, one per year, and it doesn't work. So
Tony might be thinking of calling here. Wow.
2,600.
I think that's what Tony's thinking about right now. It doesn't look like he's thinking about check raising at all. Tony is considering calling here.
We saw Toby Lewis call a double pot bet against Jaka with third pair for 8 grand. We saw Pescatori call down the Baumstein pot bet with king high.
Was it good?
Nah.
Yeah.
Neither were good.
Yeah, I made one. I was playing cash today. I made one good one and one bad one. They were big ones.
How was the game here?
Pretty good. I was pretty swingy. Like I got a couple bad suckouts and some big pots, but then kind of got it back. So it was it's pretty good. It's sort of you know, like every cash game, you're so dependent on who's at your table, obviously, and what kind of action it generates. And I was playing for about 6 hours or 7 hours, so there were peaks where it was really good, and then times where it wasn't so good based on who was sitting there.
I mean, obviously, just from what we've seen, we've seen 3 or 4 local Spanish players come in this game that I don't think many people have seen before. And they've all been up for it. Like, guys are up for playing here, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are probably excited to play on TV also, and, Tony G's such a good draw. It's got Baumstein in the game.
that always fills the seats. If I had a nickel for every time a game formed around me,
you'd have a nickel.
I wouldn't have to play poker anymore.
Come on.
No, I've played with this dude too, the bearded guy.
Ognjen.
Yeah. Where's he from?
He's from Serbia.
Okay.
I mean, I'd never met him before, but Scott says he's got a huge reputation.
Yeah.
As far as big cash goes.
600.
So who's been kind
Jesse,
of dominating
do you remember the Vienna final table last year? Ognjen came in. We did the Vienna final table in Vienna last year. Ognjen came in as a chip leader and went out in like 4th. He really tried to own the table. Went out he got pretty unlucky. Went out in 4th place. Ben Wilanowski.
I remember Ben Wilanowski, obviously,
was at that table.
and I remember the Danish fella who won.
Ognjen had the chip lead 4-handed and ended up going out in 4th place.
Right. Now that you say it, now it's starting to make a lot.
Goes by Agi.
Sometimes it's embarrassing how little I do remember.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember Wilanowski, and he was really the story. I mean, he kind of built it up and then shot it off, didn't he?
Yep, but that's his playing style.
Raise.
Look at this. He's put a raise in.
This
Juha.
raise is strange to me. I don't really see much value in a raise here. I don't understand why he wouldn't call. I mean, if he's crushing him, which he is, like, just call get more value by calling the river.
Yeah.
Not to mention you have to fold if you're re-raised here and you're just putting out more money. I don't really understand that raise at all.
He might not either.
It's absolutely possible. He's a funny dude, Juha, because you don't perceive him as someone with a lot of moves, do you? But he's got them.
I guess.
But he's never going to get called by worse, and he's never getting better to fold.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Very strange.
Unless he thinks Tony might hero him somehow. I don't know. I mean, seems like a weird spot for sure.
Very, very strange.
He's probably played as many hours with Tony as anyone, especially on TV. So, I don't know. I really don't. He might just have some kind of read on him.
But if you had the read, wouldn't you want to call there and let him bluff river?
That makes more sense, doesn't it?
Raise. 500.
I wonder if Tony is he was ahead 5 grand in this game. He's dumped the 5 grand back. Could his button be about to be pushed? I hope so.
Has he had any famous Tony G moments?
Well, you missed him. I thought everyone in the casino must have heard it.
No, I was.
You were around when he was berating
Toby Lewis.
No, I wasn't. I didn't hear it. I haven't seen any classic Tony G.
Well,
so far.
we started the day with some classic Tony G. As soon as he got in the game, he was giving Toby Lewis a hard time for not
for not straddling, and
he actually blasted him off the table. Really?
Yeah, he did.
Check.
It was. Yeah, it was Tony G in his element.
Check.
That's for sure.
Check.
So he went off on Toby for what?
Everyone was straddling except for Toby.
Oh.
I mean, there was no reason really. He just decided to pick on Toby, didn't
Toby's he's like a nice, quiet guy, right?
Yeah, I think he thought Toby was playing too good. Look at this. Torelli's the only guy at the table losing. It must be, he was in here before and everyone at the table was winning. And he said, how many cash games in the world have you had where everyone at the table is winning? It's impossible.
He was the loser and then got voted out. It was like a weird dynamic of a situation that he was the big loser and then got excommunicated from the table.
I mean, the whole point about cash games is to get the losers stuck and then pound on them.
I can't believe he was voted off.
Yeah.
Like, it was just stunning. Absolutely stunning that he was voted off.
Cool.
But, like, this is the reason that the Founding Fathers didn't want to give the Americans the vote, you know. They just knew that, you know, people can't handle democracy.
I mean, that kind of proves it.
And so Jungle Man never got in the game, huh?
I think there was a banking issue.
Yeah, his money never arrived, Jungle Man. He was trying to pick up some change by giving Tony a massage. And
it's going to be hard for them to make a bet here after there was 2 callers on the turn. It's also going to be hard for Tony to call if there is a bet. Augie betting into 2 people here with the 4-card straight, and the flush card got there, which is the other card on the turn that would have made, you know, outside of the straight, which would have been calling him. This could get through here.
This isn't a random gamble. This is pretty smart little play by Augie here. I mean, or what?
Well, I mean,
is Tony last to act?
Yeah.
Okay, so
no, Tony's checked to the big blind, so he's already checked this river. Yeah.
Tony checked,
and he's getting and Aido's thinking about it, and if Aido calls, Tony's gonna fold probably. And so that would be really impressive. Aido calls at the 10, gets Tony to fold the 10 jack.
Oh, he's raising.
The raise doesn't make any sense to me.
It's quite beautiful, though, isn't it?
Because he is going to get Tony to fold 10 jack with the raise, but Tony would have folded to with the call. I mean, he's raising with the best. It doesn't make any sense because I think Augie's range is so polarized there that either Augie has a straight or a flush and isn't folding to a raise, or he has nothing, in which case his pair of 10s would have been good.
Right. I guess maybe he's worried that Tony might call too behind him.
He's worried about exactly that, but Tony's not. He can't. I don't think Tony can overcall there with 2 pair on that board once the flush comes in.
I mean, you got to give the man credit for making a river
No,
bluff
I
raise,
definitely
though, right?
do. But I mean, it's just strange. Like I don't really understand the logic. It would have been. I think it would have been a great call. I think the call would have worked. It would have accomplished the same thing in risk less.
It's quite funny, though. It's like the heart appeared on the river, and Ognjen's like, oh, I could have that.
Yeah.
And Aido's like, no, I could have that, too.
And Tony's sitting with the best hand and throws it away.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting, like, you know, out of position in a spot like that, I think sometimes it's good to sort of throw in a blocker bet almost, you know, so you don't get, you know.
Blown off.
Blown off, yeah. Like, even though sometimes you can induce bluffs and pick off bluffs, it's, you know. Scott, what do you think about in those spots?
I mean, actually, I did that earlier today. If you remember, I potted a river on a 4-card straight with like bottom 2 in like a weird spot for like very kind of same reason you're talking about, and then just got called by a straight, and like he didn't even consider raising when he had 2 10s in his hand. Like he had the blockers to the bigger straight. Like I couldn't believe he didn't raise that there. But I guess it worked because I was going to check call anyway, so I might even get weaker hands to call me.
This is an interesting spot for Torelli. I mean, Concepcion's opened, and Tony's 3-bet to 1,200. Like, Torelli was sitting here for a while watching Tony. He knows he can 3-bet light pre-flop.
But at the same time, with 2 10s, he might just flat call, which does make his hand pretty transparent, but he does raise.
Yeah.
But he's going to be, he does put in a 4th bet here, Alec, but it's going to be a very awkward situation for him if Tony puts in the 5. Might just have to fold.
Jaka wasn't going to throw in a cold 5-bet there.
Jaka did that a couple of times.
He's always got that club in his bag.
He does, I know. I was like, he had ace-5 of diamonds. I'm like, I was Faraz just going to like do something fun here. But
And Scott, I mean, this is what deep stack poker means. Like Tony's sitting there with what's essentially a nut hand, but with 17,000, you get a little worried about putting in.
Absolutely, and you can even argue this by Torelli. This is like a feeler bet. Wants to know if he's ahead now, and like see if he should be going with a lot of flops that contain 3 low cards. So Tony in Alec's mind.
He's just flatted here, Tony.
So he also thinks probably 7 deuces in his range. And this might get him unstuck, depending how this goes. But it's not a great board for queens. Does have 2 hearts there. He's got backdoor heart draws, backdoor straight draws. It's not. I mean, it's actually probably better than average flop for queens, but it's not great. He's not going to want to stick in a lot of money here. He's going to check call at best. He's never going to raise here, I don't think, Tony. Probably just going to check call.
Well, there's already 7K in the pot. Even check calling is going to get the money in.
Right, check calling by the river, depending on turn of the river, can get the money in here. Maybe he decides he wants to go with it and check raise calls off.
I mean, I guess the question, and you were at the table with Torelli, Scott, how often can Torelli ever have sort of an air hand here? Can he ever have, the 4-5 a diamond type things?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are also playing the 7 deuce game, so that's always in people's heads at this point.
The 7 deuce, of course.
That hasn't come up in a little while.
Tony looks like he's in a fold.
No way.
I mean, it's an incredible pass if he makes it, right?
This would be a world-class fold. He's probably doing it because he would put him on kings, put Alec on kings, not tens, but nonetheless, it would still be a great fold.
He folds.
Wow.
See? I picked it up.
I mean, that's just, you just have to salute him here.
Yeah.
You just can't, I mean.
He's playing so well post-flop.
Yeah, he's a great post-flop player. Every time I watch him play, his live reads are really, really good.
Eviction is looming. There's time for just one more elimination from the table as the online viewers do their thing. More after the break. Welcome back. There's only one game in the world where you're going to see players evicted from the table during play, and that's the big game. We're close to finding out which of these 8 will be sent packing by the online viewers, and will be welcoming a new face to the table.
You just gotta love the dynamics of this big game right now. I mean, Tony G, who dug himself out of that big hole, and now he's in flying form. These two Finns seem to know each other quite well. And then, of course, the specter of Alec Torelli trying to get even in this game. And the unknown Spaniards, who are putting up a very, very good showing for themselves.
I wonder how aware the table is that Alec Torelli has been in the booth all day.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
They might not know that at all.
I mean, it is an important. I mean, when you're, it's
yeah,
incredible
it sounds pretty relevant,
isn't it? Yeah.
But they might not know it.
Right. Of course. Why would they know?
It's not like he sat back down and said, "Hey guys, I've been watching you for 6 hours."
Yeah. Sweet play there with the King 5, Jaka. He didn't say any of that. Amazing, though. I can't get over that. I think it is sort of the wonder of Tony G,
I mean,
God, if he beats this game, can you imagine if he ended up winning here?
Scott, how are you doing in the game?
I won about 5, a little less. They took the rake off the top at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, considering how swingy it was for you, not a terrible result.
I mean,
anyway.
yeah, I felt like I would have been much more upset after what happened to walk away with a loss than where I was there. I felt I was in a bad downswing. I feel like I minimized some of the losses. I feel like I could have played that when I flopped the nuts against Jaka a little differently and stacked him. But at the same time, there's a lot of good turn cards where I like by playing it the way I did. I mean, I could have won a 50,000 euro pot off of Jaka if I just raised the flop, and that kind of bothered me.
It's always hard sometimes when you flop the nuts. That
I feel like when you get the nuts in position to a 3-bet out of position, you're just supposed to call. But I had an instinct on the flop. Like I feel like I'm gonna. I feel like raising here just because it's so unorthodox, and he's never gonna put me on a flop flush.
The nut flush, yeah. Or I was a straight flush on the board, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm losing to that.
Yeah, no, of course. I did come over and sweat that hand.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
They've checked this all the way down, and Jaka giving Tony a chance to bluff at it, and he didn't fall for it. He did have the queen, obviously. I do feel like Tony is fighting on one leg here, though, because he has gotten quiet. And sometimes you almost wonder if he doesn't realize how much less threatening he is when he quiets down. I don't know.
I'm surprised he didn't make a big show of like what he just folded. You know, he did just moved on with his day, just folded queens, didn't make a speech, didn't
show it. Yeah.
We got a hand brewing here.
We sure do.
Tony, wow. Faraz opens. Tony flats with kings. Torelli flats ace queen of clubs.
Wow, this could have been way different if Torelli chooses to raise there.
Ace 5 suited and 7 5 suited. Wow, everybody's got like an.
And those hands could have squeezed.
Yeah, if the board comes low, Faraz, you know, might.
Right, but I mean, already, I mean, why didn't Torelli easy 3-bet there as
on
well?
The button is very strange.
Yeah.
And now we have pair and a flush draw. The ace 5 hit. The 7-5 spades hit. The overpair with the kings. The overpair with the. Oh no, it's a club.
It's a 5 of clubs.
But still, the ace 5 and 7-5.
Faraz might get into trouble here.
He's not in a 5-way pot. I don't see him getting into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
With a pair of tens.
Isn't he so supposed to fast play, Tony? Yeah, he's got to raise this with 3 players behind him, right?
Again, he might just call here because. No, he raises 2,000. He makes a small raise from 900 to 2,000. Maybe intending on checking back some turns and betting river for value here.
What's Faraz going to do? Put in a 4-bet? Or is he...
I don't see Faraz 4-betting here.
Interesting to see if Faraz's escape tactics are as good as Tony G's.
So he's definitely going to peel here 1 card. And that's, as far as Faraz is concerned, that's the safest card in the deck. He's not putting Tony on a 2. If he thought his 10s were good in the flop, they're still good here. So I would expect if, and this is a good card for Tony to barrel again. So I would expect Jaka to call another bet here.
Yeah, if Jaka's sort of, you know, big hand, you know, radar went up, a set of deuces is now very unlikely. So.
All in.
Wow. And this is kind of, I guess, similar to what he did to Jaka before.
I mean, he's asking himself, Jaka's asking himself right now, what's he beating right now? And like, to me, it's like exactly 6-7. I don't think Tony's valuing a pair of 9s like this. But he's also thinking through the hand. Tony just flatted pre-flop, so I don't think Jaka's ever really putting him on bigger pairs. He's probably polarizing his range right now to sets of 8s, sets of 5s, 6-7.
Well, you say that, Scott, but isn't this sort of that leveling war? He's made this big pot bet the same way that Jaka did. It looks so much weaker. He would never do this with a full house, would he?
Right. I mean...
But he could, I mean, if he puts Jaka on this type of hand, he could. But yeah, again, Jaka's being put into a very tough spot and a very unorthodoxly played hand from his opponent that's causing him to think. He was able to make the correct fold last time. But this is tough. I can see how this hand right here can go either way.
Faraz gonna fold.
Yep.
Good fold, Faraz.
Yeah.
It was a good fold, and
it's kind of a terrible bet by Tony because it's.
Well, when you're getting 10s to fold there, then
yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
But honestly, but perhaps if Tony knew Jaka has exactly 10s, maybe he makes the same bet.
We'll have a look at the results at the table. Really looking at those stacks. I mean, Aido's got over 30K in front of him. And I guess there's about 120 on the table or so. Looks like around that.
What did everybody buy in for? About
a little more than that. How about 150,000? Little up.
Yeah, everyone's in for a different amount, really. Well,
about 10. People have been going about starting with about 10 and then adding on from there. Sometimes that's generally the number. Some people and others bought in for 20. Like Alec Torelli's been topping up with 20, and so has Tony G.
Yeah, Torelli's in for over, pardon me, over 40,000 right now. But we're going to have another eviction, and let's get down to Kara Scott at the table to tell us who's the loser.
The hours have been ticking by, and it's now time for our third player eviction of the evening. The online viewers have been voting for the players they want to see remain here at the table, which means that the player with the least votes is going to have to leave the game. I can now tell you that player who will be evicted from the table is Juha Helppi.
Oh, poor Juha.
That's a bit surprising. I think he had more name recognition than most of the players at the table. He hadn't been there for that long.
Perhaps Juha's just he's perceived as too good, maybe, or not enough action, perhaps. But he's going to take 6,000 euros away, and he knows that's part of the game. Not a terrible night out for him. I wonder who will be getting in that seat.
Juha Helppi has been evicted from the game. Talk to me about what the table was like out there for you.
It's fine. I think I did okay. Maybe not too many interesting hands, but I was able to win like 6,500 euros, so I think it's good for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's not a bad rate for 3 hours play. We're not going to see you coming back in tonight?
No, I don't think so. I will go play PLO games. They have good other cash games here.
That's a poker player for you, always right into the next game. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next time, the final hours of the big game from Barcelona. Who will head the biggest winners list and who will be the biggest loser? Join us next time from the big game.